Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the community of independent thinkers. The foreign policy establishment in Washington is currently buzzing about what they call our brilliant victories in the Middle East. The mainstream media is feeding you this narrative every single day, trying to brainwash you into believing that the United States is crushing its adversaries, that we are in complete control of the situation. But let us sweep aside those arrogant lies. Let us look at the naked, unvarnished truth. What we are witnessing today is not a victory. Make no mistake, it is strategic suicide. We are watching the evaporation of American power unfold right before our very eyes, a tragedy engineered entirely by the delusions of the liberal elites sitting in their ivory towers at the Pentagon. Senior U.S. defense officials will tell you that the Iranian military is adjusting its tactics as the U.S. and Israeli bombing campaigns progress. Yet the administration stubbornly insists that the United States is winning this war. They cling to superficial numbers to comfort themselves. They proudly announce that U.S. and Israeli strikes have killed about 1,300 people in Iran, while Iranian attacks across the Middle East have killed at least 30. The Pentagon eagerly reports that only 7 American troops have been killed since the war began and 140 injured. They even highlight that out of that number, 108 have already returned to duty. General Dan Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, stands at a podium and boasts that our punishing air campaign has caused Iranian missile and drone strikes to drop off considerably. He throws out optimistic statistics claiming that ballistic missile attacks continue to trend downward 90% from where they started, and one-way attack drones have decreased 83%. But here's the rub. Behind those meticulously curated numbers lies a ruthless physical reality that Washington refuses to acknowledge. Iran is not defeated. They are simply targeting what they view as American vulnerabilities, our interceptors and our air defenses meant to guard troops and assets in the region. Let me explain the unforgiving mechanics of industrial attrition warfare. In an anarchic international system, power is not measured by eloquent speeches or televised declarations of victory. Power is firepower. It is manufacturing capacity. It is the depth of your strategic reserves. Look at what happened during a mere 12-day war with Iran just last year. Both the United States and Israel saw severe dents in their air defense stockpiles. The United States launched between 100 to 250 THAAD interceptors during that brief conflict, which constituted 20% to 50% of the Pentagon's entire inventory, according to a report by the Center for Strategic and International Studies. Think about that. We also burned through 80 SM-3 missiles, which is nearly a fifth of our total stockpile. This is not standard operational depletion. This is a logistical death warrant. Iran has fired thousands of cheap one-way attack drones at American allies and assets in Qatar, Kuwait, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and Bahrain. They are using toys that cost a few $1,000s to force us to fire interceptors that cost millions. Vali R. Nasser, an Iran expert at Johns Hopkins University, pointed out the sharp reality. It is surprising how quickly Iran learned and implemented lessons from that 12-day war. They learned exactly what we are lacking. They learned that we lack defensive capabilities like interceptors, THAAD missiles, and Patriots. U.S. officials admit that by simply surviving this barrage, the government in Tehran can claim victory. You cannot maintain global hegemony when your magazines are empty. We are bleeding our own foundation of firepower to death. Mr. Nasser notes that after depleting the American inventory, Iran could still have launch capability left to target American troops, assets, and allies. The Western elite always believed that if you cut off the head of the snake, the body will naturally die. Washington thought that the killing of the country's supreme leader at the beginning of the war would cause the nation to collapse, but reality is slapping them in the face. Iran is demonstrating every single day that this assassination has not totally crippled its ability to fight. Military experts and officials say they are not acting like a decapitated regime, not at all. Instead, they are operating a military machine with ice-cold strategic calculation. In the 11 days since the conflict began, Iran has deliberately targeted key American air defense and radar systems in the region. They hit an early warning radar system at Al Udeid, damaging a sophisticated radar. They hit 3 radar domes at Camp Attrition in Kuwait, another camp housing American troops. 50 miles northeast of there, at the Ali al-Salem Air Base in Kuwait, imagery captured after the strike showed at least 6 buildings or structures adjacent to satellite communications infrastructure were damaged or destroyed. What does this mean? Military communication infrastructure is highly classified, making it difficult to determine which exact systems may have been affected, but the targeted locations make it abundantly clear. Iran was aiming to disrupt the U.S. military's ability to communicate and coordinate. They are systematically trying to blind and deafen our command structure. Military officials admit this attack means Iran is trying to hurt American air defenses. General Kane acknowledged that the Iranian military had shifted its tactics. He said, "No plan survives first contact with the enemy," and admitted, "They're adapting, as we are." He refused to specify exactly how Iran was changing its tactics because, in his words, he'd rather not tell them what's working for operational security reasons. But the truth cannot be hidden. U.S. officials say Iran appears to have accepted a harsh material reality. It cannot match the United States and Israel on pure firepower, and they do not need to. Look at the profound naivete of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He acknowledged that the Pentagon had not expected Iran's ferocious response against its neighbors. He tries to spin it, claiming they knew it was a possibility, but didn't necessarily anticipate exactly how they would react. He labels it a demonstration of the desperation of the regime. He calls it a big mistake to start targeting neighbors right away, accusing them of indiscriminate targeting and flailing recklessly at the beginning. Wrong. Completely wrong. That is not desperation. That is the ruthless logic of survival. In the past, military experts note, Iran gave ample warning before launching retaliatory strikes, and largely did so only to save face. Last year, after President Trump ordered American B-2 stealth bombers to strike 3 Iranian nuclear facilities, Iran retaliated by launching strikes at the Al Udeid military base in Qatar. Before those strikes, Iran made clear where it would be targeting. Nothing like that is happening now. No warnings, no political theater. When a state feels its existential survival is directly threatened, it throws out the diplomatic rulebook and fights like a cornered animal. In the past, Iran directed all of its drone attacks at Israel, but not so this time. Now they are aiming squarely at the American power structure. Iranian-backed militias have attacked hotels frequented by American troops. One militia in Iraq launched a drone swarm attack on an upscale hotel in Erbil, which a senior U.S. military official said demonstrated that Iran was aware that the Pentagon was housing troops in hotels in the region, and the financial bleed is staggering. A Pentagon assessment provided to Congress put the cost of a strike on the U.S. Navy 5th Fleet headquarters complex in Bahrain at about $200 million. That is the bloody price we pay for our hubris. Do not fool yourselves into thinking this nightmare is over. Iran's attacks have not stopped completely, and 2 military officials expressed concern that the Pentagon did not have full clarity on all of Iran's launch sites. Officials also said that Iran had kept many missiles in reserve to strike at important battlefield targets like the American radars. In confidential briefings on Capitol Hill last week, Pentagon officials told lawmakers that Iran still retained as many as 50% of its missiles and launchers. They claim the air campaign is whittling that down each day, but listen to Mr. Nasser's warning. If you ask what the thinking enemy is thinking, it might be that the first wave of Iranian missiles and drones were door openers, and they have more advanced missiles, including hypersonic missiles, that could come afterwards. We are being led down the primrose path into a perfectly designed structural trap. But the true tragedy lies elsewhere. You have to understand the third-party audience. China, the only true peer competitor to the United States, is standing by watching us burn through our strategic arsenal in the Middle East. Beijing is taking meticulous notes. They see our THAAD systems being drained. They see our SM-3 interceptors evaporating when Beijing decides to reshape the balance of power in the Western Pacific. How exactly is the United States going to respond when our air defense silos are empty? We have tied our own hands, blindly pursuing non-core interests while neglecting the material pillars that guarantee the survival of a great power. My friends, what we are facing is not an accidental mishap. It is the inevitable consequence of a flawed grand strategy that has spanned decades. The truth is out there, and it is cold, clinical, and unforgiving. If we do not change course, we will be left with nothing but the ashes of what was once a great empire. I urge you to subscribe to this channel, join our community of resistance, and share this truth. We need a clear-eyed community in the turbulent era that lies ahead. Stay safe, stay awake, and never stop questioning. The truth is out there. I will see you next time.